Welcome back, everybody, into Bill's Chat. I am Josh McCarty. With me tonight, as always, is Luka. Luka, we have made it to Christmas week. I hope you've been good this year. I hope Santa brings you everything that was on your list. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I believe I've been good. I'm trying my best out here day in, day out. It's trying to be the best father I can be in these trying times right now, and then it is going to help a little bit. I officially off of work through the new year, so that's an exciting thing. But I'm doing good. I mean, it's a Bills win feeling, but obviously we have a little bit to dive in on that. But the cherry on top is the Sabres also had a rare, Sunday game and even continued their winning streak on a 6. Shout out to the Sabres. The Yarmo era is started out undefeated, so that is fun. But as I sit here, in the hours of Sunday night as we watch the Patriots Ravens game while recording this, I would say vibes are good for the most part.
I just looked down to check something to make sure I was ready for when you kicked it back to me. I look up and Tyler Huntley's in the game for the Ravens, Luka, and it's not garbage time.
Yeah.
Something must have happened to Lamar when I wasn't looking. That seems less than ideal. We will figure that out as we go along, I assume. All right. Well, you did mention the Bills win 23-20 over Cleveland. This game was not without drama. Although I will say this, Luka, for a game that came down till the end, it was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. It was a one-score game for the entire fourth quarter. And there were multiple chances where the Bills defense had to hold while it was a one-score game. I never felt like the game was in danger. And I will say this right off the top. I was watching this game through two lenses. One, as a Bills fan, like I always do, but I was also watching it through a fantasy lens because it's fantasy playoffs. So there was a lot of me that was like hoping Josh Allen would find a reason to pass or hoping, they'd get down and try to score. So I would get frustrated when I wasn't as locked into the situation. But stepping back from that, it was just like I never felt like they were really in danger. Had the Browns even gone up by 4, I felt like they would have said, "All right, that's cute. Now we're going to go get our touchdown." Even when Dawson Knox drops the ball in the end zone that would have put the game away, I was just like, "Well, that's 6 points in fantasy, but they'll probably be just fine." Was there ever a point today in this game where you felt like the Bills could lose?
The answer is no, but we'll put a little star at the top there. There was one moment in a chat room I'm in and stuff. Chat room, that sounds so weird to say. Discord server that I'm in.
Showing your age, Luka.
Where I did make the comment and I led it with, LMAO, but I was like, Bills might actually lose this one. And it was, I want to say, following the, I want to say it was the one where, I want to say it was, they punted it after losing a total of 12 yards on 3 plays. And just, it was in the fourth quarter, probably mid fourth at that moment. And I remember sitting there just going, I didn't believe that they were going to lose the game, but the idea of it started to enter my brain in a comical way where you're like, is this really about to happen? Like, are we really about to watch a 10-point lead at halftime dwindle away with Josh Allen, who did seem to get banged up a little bit? X-ray came back negative, comes back. Something's clearly not right with him still, but it's a 10-point lead against the Shadur-led Browns. And we're going to let that dwindle away and die. And that's how we're going to lose after what happened last week. I didn't believe it to truly be something, but also at the same time, it did enter my mind a little comically where I would call it wouldn't have surprised me anymore if it happened. I guess that would be the line I would define it there. It got to a point where it was like, okay, this game is becoming so funny to me in the second half and in the fourth quarter that it no longer would feel unreasonably surprising if the Browns somehow put together one more drive, went down, scored, whether it was to tie or even to, take the lead at that point. It would have no longer surprised me just because the vibe of the game was starting to get weird And, the offense was having its issues. They got away from the run with James Cook, which looked absolutely unstoppable in the first half. And it was just the second half of this game needs to be studied by football scientists, because I just don't understand what we were watching comparative to the first half and any other conventional football game. There was so much weird things going on that honestly, at some point we'll talk about it. That final drive for the Browns that ended in them punting on their own one because they, with the game on the line, didn't want to go for it on fourth down. Understandably so, because it was to convert 36 yards or whatever. It was 30 plus. I know that for sure. I'm going to say 36, but it's like, what a weird closeout to a game that, it's one that I think will be very forgettable in the long run once the playoffs get going, but, not the prettiest when it comes to it. And I will say, I didn't ever think they were going to lose, but boy, would it have been funny if it actually happened in a very sad, I hate my life kind of way, but also not shocking.
It would have been the Miami game all over again, almost to a T, where the week before you have a dramatic win over, at the time, what you think is one of the best teams in the sport. The Bills beat the Chiefs at the time, and then go to Miami and lay an egg in a spot that I was saying before the game, hey, anybody that's close, rest them. Genius Josh this week, after a big win against New England, is on the live show this week saying, hey, anybody that's close, rest them. Luckily, the Bills did not take that approach. Surprise, surprise. They do respect the fact that this is the NFL, and the worst team of the league still has elite athletes. Luka, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this game, Myles Garrett did not break the sack record. We're probably not going to talk too much about Myles Garrett on this show. There might be another pass rusher in this game that we mentioned quite a bit. Spoiler alert on the Bills side of things. But quick thoughts on Myles Garrett, and are you at all disappointed he didn't do it against the Bills?
God, no. I'm not disappointed. You never want to be part of someone else's highlight film and, Hall of Fame film, or you don't want to be that big poster picture in the Hall of Fame where they're showing off Myles Garrett's record-breaking sack. I thought it was even funny that after about an hour and a half of time passing on what was a weak sack in the first place, the NFL turned around and was like, you know what? Myles Garrett did get half a sack in there while Josh Allen gave himself up at the 1 inch line. Like, I don't need the NFL to chime in here and give a half sack on that. If anything, I find it very interesting that on tape and how it was originally awarded. I do want to point this out. It was originally awarded to Myles Graham and Mason Graham. Sorry. Yeah. And then they took it away from Mason Graham and actually did a half sack for Wright and a half sack for Garrett. I find that very odd.
Yeah.
Because that felt like a first man to touch him claims the sack situation. Mason Graham is the one that does that, which I jokingly said, I bet you Myles Garrett is going to close fist punch the rookie in the face in the locker room at halftime for stealing that sack from him, because those are the ones you need to break records. And I thought that was honestly very, very funny. But I say that jokingly, like Myles Garrett's an exceptional professional. I don't think he would actually punch his teammate in the face over a sack, but I imagine he would have been a little frustrated if that's actually how it goes down, and say the season progresses the way it does, he doesn't get the record. It's like, that could have been it. I'm happy Myles Garrett didn't break it against us, but also how the NFL and everything handled the one sack that occurred, one of the two sacks that occurred, being the one that Myles Garrett could have potentially gotten a full credit for. I thought that was very odd, and I just feel like it deserves its own little highlight of question marks.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing too. Let's say Myles Garrett had gotten a full sack on that. It would have been the tying one, not the record breaker. But if you're old enough to remember when Michael Strahan broke the record, it was very controversial because it was the last game of the season. They were against the Packers and Brett Favre. The Packers legitimately just had to kneel it out. Brett Favre walks up to the Giants huddle and says something to them, and then for no reason whatsoever rolls out to Strahan's side and slides. And I think this Josh Allen play where he scrambles around for 23 yards lost and then gets sacked on the 1 yard line. Luka said it. You don't want to be part of anybody's highlight package. Imagine that play being on Myles Garrett's Hall of Fame reel when he's being inducted into the Hall of Fame by Sheldon Rankins or whatever teammate does it. And it's like you're seeing that play in your face, and you're like, that Josh Allen did. I don't remember that. And yeah, so crisis averted. Myles Garrett will have his day against somebody else. Luka, I have yet to see an update on Lamar. He has not come back in this game. This feels like we're this is quickly going to become something that we could be talking about in the next couple of days. Next time that I kick it over to you, I'll look for another update. But by the time you're listening to this, we'll all know what's going on. But obviously, this would be a devastating situation for the Ravens, who on the out of town scoreboard did not get the help they were hoping to get with Pittsburgh going to Detroit and winning a close game today. And I think that's the lesson I want to take from this Browns game is on a day where the Broncos essentially get blown out at home by the Jaguars, on a day when the Raiders go to Houston and give the Texans everything they can handle, on a day where the Steelers go to go to Detroit and beat the Lions.
Oh my God.
It's survive and advance in this league. That's exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
And the Bills survived and advanced. Now, look, Luka and I have been on record. We do not believe this is a team that's going to win the division because regardless of what happens tonight with the Patriots and the Ravens, we are rooting for the Patriots, by the way. I am. Luka's not as fearful of the Ravens as I am. But regardless of what happens tonight, it's irrelevant in the division standpoint. The one thing is the Ravens could win if they win this game and the Patriots lose. It buys you the opportunity to lose one more game and still win the division. But you need either the Jets or the Dolphins to beat the Patriots. And if you watch football today, that becomes pretty complicated because say what you want to about Tua, and boy, did the Dolphins go out of their way this weekend to let the entire world know they're done with Tua, leaking stuff to Adam Schefter, how they tried to once give up 4 draft picks for Joe Burrow. Okay, Dolphins, we see you. We see who you're putting the blame at. Classy. Quinn Ewers was horrendous. We saw that coming. He was not an impressive college quarterback, not impressive in the pros. Brady Cook, also horrendous for the Jets. I don't think it's something that we should be counting on, either one of those guys getting a win over these New England Patriots, but crazier things have happened. But I'm of the mindset that the Bills are headed right directly for one of these wild card slots, which seems like a pretty advantageous spot for them. But with the Chargers winning today, with the Jaguars winning today, I think it's one of these things where it's even with 2 games to go, it's still too hard to predict who's going to slot where. Luka, sitting here right now, what is on your mind most? Stuff that happened in the Browns game, which we can certainly get into, or the playoff field? Where's your head
at? My head is, it's all over the place. I'm going to be honest. You went through the results of today, and tongue in cheek, I will say, let me start there. When the Broncos might have been exposed for not being this elite team in the AFC that some wanted to pump them to be, thanks to the Jags coming into town and giving them the business and putting up a bunch on a team that holds a lot in the secondary that was exposed a little bit and yada, yada, yada. I jokingly said in some friend group chats, Josh, 1 seed still alive? ? Eye emoji. So all things are on the table. You need some crazy things. You laid it out so perfectly. I am all about kind of where the true playoff stuff is going to seed at this moment in time. With that win over the Browns, the Bills have collectively or have full-heartedly gotten themselves in position to figure out who are they going to be playing matchup wise. And in my opinion, it's like you just essentially want to play either you want to be in the 5 or 6 spot. If you're looking at wild card, you just don't want to somehow fall to the 7 spot. That's, in my opinion, all you want to truly do, because the path at that moment in time feels to be the most optimal. I mean, it's even the most optimal in the sense of, I heard Patriots fans this week, Josh, following the loss to the Bills, talk about the loss to the Bills may have hurt a little bit, but the reality of all of a sudden, okay, the 1 seed might not be on the table as much for us right now, started to hit them, and they're like, and our reward is going to be the Texans coming into town. That's not exactly, that might be the worst matchup possible in the first round. And they're like, do we even want to win the division anymore if that's the result? And things of that was starting to stir up a little bit with Patriots fans. And I thought that was very funny because I think that's, what I find quality in that though out of Patriots fans. Patriots fans understand when they truly, you look at the matchups and how important that first matchup is and setting up a postseason run. It's, make fun of Patriot fans all you want and things like that. They have years on years on years of experience of success and understanding how important that path is and who you play and where you play and blah, blah, blah. It's Patriots fans are used to it. And I just thought it was funny that following that, yes, they didn't win the division, but then they're like, even if we do win the division, this kind of sucks. Like all of a sudden we're going to have the worst matchup of the three in the AFC, it feels like. And, the Bills come up just short of the division, shucks, and they're possibly at the 5 seed rewarded with the Steelers. Like, how does this seem right? That doesn't seem right. It's one of those things that I'm all eyes on it as it sits right now. I believe the Bills would be playing the Jags. I'm not sure how they sit in tiebreaker wise with the Patriots, but Bills are in the 6th spot still because the Chargers had a nice win in Dallas. Yeah, we'd still be playing the Jaguars at this moment in time. So I welcome that. Honestly, I welcome what that's going on and stuff like that. And the reality of the situation is, Josh, that we're going to be most likely in that 5-6 window. And I think that's a great spot for this team if you still want them and hope that they can make a run under Josh Allen to do the things that they need to do, even if you have all the question marks for this team, that it should be a fun one to close out the season as we roll into it.
So I have the ESPN NFL playoff machine up, and you're right. The Bills right now are sitting in that 6th seed. They actually have the Chargers in the 5th seed. Keep in mind, the Chargers to close out the season have to play the Broncos and the Texans. They have a tough road to hoe. But the Bills would right now, it depends on the outcome of this game tonight against the Ravens and the Patriots. If the Ravens win, the Bills would be going to Foxborough in round 1 as a 6-3 matchup. And if the Patriots win, the Bills would be going to Jacksonville in round 1 in the 3-6 matchup. So there we are. Let's talk about the game a little bit. I thought the defense was outstanding today. I mean, to the surprise of nobody, the Browns went down and scored on the first drive. And from that point on, the Bills really did lock it down. They got some turnovers today. I thought their pass rush was strong. The only success the Browns had running the ball was with Shedeur Sanders' scrambles and then handing off to Malachi Corley. Raheem Sanders, their running back, had less than 4 yards per carry. Quinshon Judkins had 2.8 yards per carry before he went out with what looks like a devastating injury. The last report I saw, man, broken leg, dislocated kneecap, and still doing x-rays on his foot.
And dislocated ankle was confirmed. I mean, his leg is just completely destroyed.
I haven't heard anything that horrendous since the McGahee injury.
Yeah, it wasn't quite, I think, as direct impact terrible as that, but also like you can freeze frame it, and it's like a leg is not supposed to do multiple things in that freeze frame. Like you shouldn't see that. And I imagine he's young. You would like to hope he can heal a little bit better, but I mean, that's like Nick Chubb, Willis McGahee vibe where it's like you could lose a step off of that injury alone easily. And obviously in the NFL, that's everything. So you hope for the best for a guy, not to deter, to get on a tangent here, but it's like, you hope everything for the best. But yeah, it's seeing Judkins, who had a really good, flash in the middle part of the season here, go down with that. It was brutal.
Yeah, kind of like Jamal Williams for the Chargers. He had such a good or was it the Broncos he was drafted to? I forget, but first round draft pick, and he looked excellent right out of the chute, and then he had the devastating leg injury, and it's not till 3 or 4 years later that he catches on with the Cowboys and kind of revives his career. You hope that's not the path Judkins has to go down, but excuse me, long off season ahead for him for sure. Defensively for the Bills, you had Greg Rousseau with excuse me, 1 second. 2.5 sacks. And boy, were they timely because they shut down drives multiple times. Greg Rousseau has come under the ire of a lot of Bills fans this season, Luka, and we kind of know the book on him at this point. he's never been a big box score guy. Like before analytics became a thing, before PFF really came to the forefront. Like if you were watching Greg Rousseau in the 90s, he would have probably been considered a bust. And, you know, because you didn't appreciate the little things. Greg Rousseau is fantastic against the run. Greg Rousseau gets good pressure on the quarterback. The charts love it. He just doesn't consistently bring the quarterback down. Today he did it 2.5 times. Where are you at with Greg Rousseau? I know once you get paid, expectations go up. I get it. I do think it's important to differentiate. While he did get a massive contract extension this offseason, it did not put him in the same pay grade class as Myles Garrett and TJ Watt and Micah Parsons. He wasn't there. He was definitely in the step below. Do you think Greg Rousseau has been a disappointment this year, or where are you at with Groot?
I think Rousseau is exactly what he is. I think he's still developing and progressing as a player. And you know, he's at a point in his career where it's like you don't ever want to hear, or you don't like to hear that a player is still developing, but he's a younger guy. I mean, that's the reality of who he is. And I think he does two things well enough that make me not feel like he's any part of a disappointment. He's dependable when it comes to being relied upon as an every down defensive end if he's healthy and available. And two, for the most part, he's been healthy. I feel like earlier on he would get banged up a little bit, Josh, and stuff, you know, where he'd be out for a game or two and things like that, or he would get hurt, he'd come back, but you would be like, ever since that injury, he hasn't been the same. He hasn't been that guy. He hasn't been the impact, whatever. I feel like you haven't heard that nearly as much out of the Rousseau camp, and you haven't heard things from the Bills saying, you know, well, he's banged up left and right, this and that, and all of a sudden his production's gone way down. He still shows up when it needs to. I don't think he'll ever be that high end edge, but I don't think that was ever the expectation. There was the hope because of his size and, you know, everything athletically that he can maybe figure that out and a light switch would flip. But that's a hope and a dream. You hope in one hand, you do something in the other and see which fills up first. It's one of those kinds of things where the reality of it all is this is exactly what I believe Rousseau was projected to be in the NFL. That's why he was a late first round pick. I mean, the biggest thing that was said about him coming into the league, Josh, was that he had a lot of sacks that one year, but they were coverage sacks. It was time sacks. It was quarterback holding onto the ball all the time, and he would eventually just break it down and make it happen. And in college, if you're not dominating the point of attack and getting to the passer super quick, and all you're doing for 20 sacks or whatever his number ended up being is just getting coverage sacks the entire time, it's probably because that's just who you are. You don't have that quick twitch step to jump off the snap as much and do the things that elite pass rushers do, even at that size. So I think this is great. I think Rousseau had a great game. You mentioned it. Statistically, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles with an assist in there. All things are great with his game today. I think there was even a moment, though, where he kind of let Shedeur get out of his grasp a little bit, and Shedeur was able to run upfield a touch. And that kind of stuff will happen with Rousseau too. You just got to hope he's still available because, and the reality of it all, Josh, is at any point this season, last season, the season before, outside of maybe that other guy who just came in, who appears to be our number one edge, who was the guy you wanted out there at every time? It was Rousseau. Bosa and Rousseau this year. You had your Leonard Floyd and Rousseau. You have the one guy and then Rousseau. And Rousseau feels like that great number 2. You had Von Miller, Rousseau. He feels like a quality number 2 that you can then have that elite edge rusher on the opposite side to take care of business, and he will reap the benefits when it's available to him, but he's not going to create those opportunities for himself. That is what he is. And I think also on the pay part, he's paid appropriately. You mentioned he's not at that top end pay line. He won't ever be, in my opinion. I don't feel like he's that quote unquote overpaid player right now. I think the production you're getting out of Rousseau is exactly what the dollar amount equates to. That it feels very much hand in hand as to what you should be getting from a guy at his pay level.
Let's talk about the offense. It was a big James Cook day. Boy, did it start off strong for James Cook. He had that 44-yard touchdown run on the Bills' first drive, and it started to feel like to me, holy cow, is James Cook going to have another Carolina type day? It did not play out that way. The Bills did get other backs involved. Ty Johnson had 3 carries, also chimed in for, oh no, he had no catches, but Ray Davis had 2 catches for 20 yards and also 3 carries. Ty Johnson did have a touchdown. I like the fact the Bills are getting their running backs involved. We've talked about on this show a lot that really with what they have going on at wide receiver, James Cook and Ty Johnson especially are 2 of the best weapons they have in this passing game, and I'm glad that they're using those guys, and Ray Davis is good in the passing game. And I do think it's important that while early on in the season, it sure felt like every time they take James Cook off the field, they're almost donating a down when they run. It does feel like in the second half of the season, Luka, that Ty Johnson and Ray Davis have stepped their games up and become those formidable backups that are capable of giving James Cook a blow, take a series off, keep those legs fresh, which is very important when you get into the cold months and then heading into the playoff stretch.
Yeah, I would give a lot of props to Ray Davis right now. I think
Mhm.
Ray Davis, as tough of a stretch as you will see in, say, the opening 6 games, and that's the kind of thing for a young player, especially in their sophomore season, that can truly just kind of set them back to the point of no return. I feel like you see that a lot in the league. It's just one of those things where confidence is everything. I think in athletics in general, confidence is a big thing. You see it. I mean, Sabres fans, you should understand the importance of confidence in a locker room. That's for sure. You need to be confident in your play. You need to trust what you're doing is correct, and the results will come. Well, for Ray Davis, that wasn't happening in the early part of the season, and that can hurt your confidence and really hurt the psyche. And next thing you know, you just let that snowball into just becoming a problem time and time again, and you are a non-factor anymore for your team. I think it might have been sparked through the return game. It might have been sparked just because of over time. There was still trust being held by the offensive coaching staff and everyone else around the facility. That's like, hey, you're still one of our guys, whatever it is. But I feel like what we're seeing now from him, props to him to be mentally tough and to work through it and make it happen. And I love you bringing this up. It does feel like Ty Johnson and Ray Davis are now getting back to that point where they could be that complementary guy to this running game. And, that's definitely something that's needed when you have James Cook being as productive as he is. It's like James Cook is still human. He still needs breaks, and you need to find production elsewhere when it's that isn't Josh Allen's legs. Like, hey, can we get someone else in the backfield that can do something for you? So there is that. I will say quick, I throw it back to you, Josh, just in live time so you can react to this. It appears Lamar Jackson is dealing with a lower back ribs injury or something to that effect because a knee went into there potentially. Tyler Huntley was warming up in the second half. So as we're watching this, just so you're aware and people are now listening, even though they know the result of this game when they listen, it appears he might be out for the remainder of the game because of something like that.
Boy, I tell you, I've watched back-to-back snaps of Drake May, and he's doing everything he can to throw an interception. Two plays in a row hit Ravens players in the chest. And Travion Henderson, the excellent running back who the Bills saw a big dose of last week, has left this game with a concussion. He will not return. So this game so far is turning into quite the mash unit out there. Luka, let's get to our favorite segment of the week, game balls and game checks, before we spin it around the league and talk about the playoff picture. The Bills win the game today in Cleveland, 23-20. Who gets your game ball award from the Buffalo Bills?
Game ball. I mean, there's an obvious, I guess would be the way to put it. To me, there's an obvious. Man, it's hard not. God, it's really hard to not give it to James Cook. I'm going to be honest. Like James Cook shot out of a cannon in this game. James Cook was phenomenal. At halftime, he was 9 carries, already over 100 yards. He was averaging 11 yards per carry or whatever it is. He was quite literally averaging a first down anytime he touched the ball. That is quite a feat to do in a half of football. My only question on him is why the hell did it kind of stop in the second half as much as it did? Went from 9 carries in the first half to 16 in total on the game. That tells me that his production or his times his number was called went down in a game you were up 10 against the Browns. That is an odd decision to make for how good it was going, especially. But he was dynamic. He is truly that second punch to this team outside of Josh Allen that it needs to be at its best when the playoffs are coming. And I feel like right now what we're seeing out of him, Josh, is him just really getting into form, really getting going. And I love that he's finally being respected as one of the best in the sport. As he could be truly that key to making the run and getting over the hump that this team needs to, because all the runs and times going to the AFC Championship or divisional rounds of seasons past, the one thing was like it was all on Josh Allen's shoulder. There was no running game to complement it. Whatever it was, it's like this will be the first postseason, thanks to what James Cook is doing week in, week out, where it's like defense game plans can't simply just circle 17. They truly need to make sure 4 is a relevant part of their game plan whenever the Bills are coming to town and or you're going to Buffalo to play them. It is a legit problem, and James Cook is as dynamic as it comes in this league now, it feels like. And for today's game especially, he gets my game ball.
How many yards did he have today?
117 on the ground. Sorry. In the air, he added another 17 with one catch.
I'm only asking because I'm looking at something right now. I'm doing quick math right now. So 1532. So he's at 1532 on the year.
Yeah.
And that puts him, Jonathan Taylor's at 1443. So he's 89 yards ahead of Jonathan Taylor, who plays tomorrow night. So right now he is currently the NFL rushing leader. If you're wondering why I was doing math, it's because I was looking at something that hadn't updated prior to week 16. All right, Luka, just to put a bow on the Lamar Jackson thing, he has not come back into the game. We assume by the time you hear this, you'll know what's going on with him. All the best to Lamar Jackson. Hopefully it's not serious. My Game Ball Award winner is going to be Jordan Poyer. I really thought about Gregory Rousseau. I really did. I felt him today. I felt like he really took over this game defensively when the Bills needed somebody to. Massive sacks, massive impact. What you want to see from Greg Rousseau, who does impact the game in multiple ways. But today it involved bringing the quarterback down to the ground multiple times, including killing a drive or two for the Browns. This one might be a little bit of nostalgia on my part, but holy cow, man, where would this team be without Jordan Poyer? With the way Taylor Rapp started playing this season, how unplayable he became, and then with DeMar Hamlin going on to IR so early, if Jordan Poyer wasn't here, there are no answers in the building. He and Tre'Davious White have been absolute saviors for this team. Jordan Poyer with an interception today, a tackle for a loss, and I'm trying to remember the play. Excuse me, an interception today at a half of sack, but there was also a tackle for loss that I wish I could remember more vividly. But that was actually the play that made me almost jump out of my seat, where I was like, "That's Jordan Poyer," and he looks great out there. It's such a fun story, such a cool story. And, I try not to be too romantic about sports because, as you remind me all the time, it's not a movie, it is sports. But if this was the iteration of the Bills that do get it done and do finally get to a Super Bowl championship, it will be so sweet to have Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White and Jordan Phillips involved in that ceremony, because those guys have been so much of the heartbeat of this team from the build since 2017 on. And congrats to Jordan Poyer. Another couple of guys I'd like to mention in the Game Ball Award is I would go with Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins, because I will dispute the fact that Myles Garrett had a half a sack today. I thought that, considering you're coming in against the best pass rusher in the sport, going for a record, the fact that his name wasn't called today, I have not watched the All-22, but I'm assuming the Bills tackles played very, very well. And the fact that they ran the ball as well as they did, I would assume they're playing very, very well. So I'd like to mention them as well. And then Dayon Walker, felt like we heard his name a lot today, batting balls down, getting a push. Felt like it's been a while since we heard him. Worried about the rookie wall, but felt like you felt him out there a little bit today too. All right, Luka, with the good, there's got to be some bad. Who gets your game check award for the game today for the Bills?
Whew, boy, there is only one guy and one guy only that I want to give this goddamn award to. Brandon Cooks. Not only do you get my game check award, you get my pink slip award. Get the F off my team.
Keon, you still here, buddy?
Yeah, I mentioned it to you before we were recording, but I was finally going to give some positive shout outs to Keon Coleman. That feels like in forever, And it's, hey, I need Keon and Gabe Davis active on this roster before Brandon Cooks. And on top of that, I need them just on this roster, period, before Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks no longer needs to be on this team. He can't do the one core thing you need him to do, the reason you brought him in, and that's catch a ball. Josh Allen keeps putting balls directly on his hands, both of them, and he refuses to even remotely try to trap it in first touch. At least Dawson Knox, when he drops them, looks like a weird alligator arm tight to himself when he does it. You are actually incapable of even letting the ball hit your hands and stick in any remote capacity. You are too useless and too old for me to care about you. I don't know how more cruel I can be. Get off my team. You are useless. I hate seeing you out there on this roster, wasting a spot that anyone else could be there. Why are you even out there before Mecole Hardman when he's active? I don't know. Just go away. Brandon Cooks, you get my game check award. I'm done with it.
I'm with you. I feel like I wanted to give the Bills credit today because I feel like they are trying everything they can at wide receiver. When the inactives came out today and Gabe Davis and Keon Coleman were inactive, it was like, okay. So when you think about what the Bills wanted at wide receiver coming into this season, it was Keon Coleman, healthy scratch today. It was Curtis Samuel on IR. It was Elijah Moore, no longer on the team. And then it was Khalil Shakir and Joshua Palmer. So of the 5 guys they were building their wide receiver group around, only 2 of them remain. One is off the team, one is inactive by choice, and one is on IR and hasn't contributed anything meaningful in months. I can't believe I'm going to say this, Luka. When is Curtis Samuel coming back? Because here's the thing I know about Curtis Samuel. He's going to play for 5 minutes, make a pretty cool play, and then go away. But unlike the guy you just talked about, at least he catches the ball. At least he has hands that work. And he is legitimately fast, not I used to be fast 5 years ago. So can we get Curtis Samuel back? And I don't know if Keon Coleman does a better job than Brandon Cooks. But what I do know is you drafted this kid 33rd overall last year in the draft, and he can't beat out that guy. Curtis Samuel, 2 weeks in a row, has had a play clearly drawn up for him. They clearly have a plan for him, and both times he's dropped the ball. I said Curtis Samuel, Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks.
And I don't know. I don't want to just say like, oh, 2 bad plays, let's write him off. It's not like the Bills can just afford to get rid of useful players, but to Luka's point, if you can't do the thing you're supposed to do, nothing else matters. And if this was a rookie who was getting open and then, he just happens to drop it, it'd be like, okay, stick with this kid. This is a veteran. Like, he's got to do the simple things. Yeah, I agree. It's time to be gone. My game check award winner, and it's funny because I was thinking of Brandon Cooks. Who did I had somebody picked out for this, and then I lost my train of thought. Give me 1 second here, Luka, while I pull this up, because I was looking at the box score and somebody stood out to me, and then all of a sudden I lost my train of thought. Okay. Oh. God. Back to the wide receiver pool. Joshua Palmer. What would you say you do here? I don't understand okay. I've even said it on the show. Joshua Palmer looks open a lot. Josh Allen, by the way, did not have a good game today. There were multiple instances where he could have made the smart play, and he did not make the smart play. Today, if you want my honest opinion, felt like Josh Allen thought he could probably go for some explosive plays, and he did not take the checkdowns. When Josh Allen is unstoppable, he's going back. He sees something. He takes his checkdowns. It's impossible to stop him when he's playing smart. When he's playing like today, he's passing up checkdowns. He's throwing it to guys that aren't open, and it looks like chaos out there. But Joshua Palmer, I'm sorry, 1 catch for 2 yards. Are we ever going to have a Joshua Palmer game? It's going to be Christmas in 4 days. All I heard about all summer was Joshua Palmer, Joshua Palmer, Joshua Palmer. You don't understand how big of an upgrade this guy is over Amari Cooper. And I understand Amari Cooper was terrible for the Bills last year. I understand that. What would you call Joshua Palmer's season? I get it. He had 2 big catches in Atlanta. And boy, oh boy, if he hadn't gotten hurt, Luka, you never know what he was going to do in that game. But the problem is he did get hurt. And then he missed like a month and a half. And he came back and he's done nothing since then. So Joshua Palmer, I think this might be your 3rd or 4th game check award, which is pretty impressive because you've missed about half the games. But Joshua Palmer, gets the game check. Honorable mention to Michael Badgley. I'm sorry, dude. Like, how many chances are you going to get in the NFL and then you miss an extra point? I know we don't like to get mad at backups for being backups, but you're a kicker. Like, this is your shot. The Bills have one kicker gone for the year. The other one's out and may not be coming back soon. Like, you could be a kicker on a playoff team and extend your career, and you miss an extra point against the Browns. Was the pressure
we'll give him the commentator curse to that one. If you were listening closely, Ian Eagle timed that one to absolute perfection, saying he was just on a roster until he missed an extra point. Bang, kick immediately happens, hits the post, and even JJ Watt goes, "Did you really just do that?"
So
we'll give you a little pass.
I'm going to wrap it up for the clip on YouTube. And that is our look at game balls and game checks. Luka, I have what I think might be a controversial opinion. I love JJ Watt as a commentator.
Oh,
I know it's not popular to say like commentators are good, but I have a couple of commentators that I think people hate that I love. JJ Watt is fantastic. Fantastic. Greg Olsen, I think everybody loves Greg Olsen at this point.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. This one I don't think people are going to agree with. Tom Brady is excellent.
Fantastic.
And what I love most about Tom Brady, when you're getting down to like 3 minutes to go, and let's say the Lions and Steelers, and the Lions are driving down, Tom Brady is telling you exactly what he was thinking as a quarterback. You're coming down. You want to get this playoff before the 2-minute warning. You're down by 2 scores. You have to score before the 2-minute warning. Remember the end of the Rams game last year when the Bills ran the quarterback sneak and it went to the 2-minute warning? He was losing his mind, and it was so smart. And I just think that's such a good view into his brain. I know people have a bad taste about Tom Brady because, God forbid, he taunted us for two decades. I get it. He is a brilliant football mind, and he's also great at putting it out there. I think right now, the NFL is about as rich when it comes to color commentators as it's been in a long, long time.
1,000%. I love you bringing this up. I thought that, we had JJ Watt back-to-back weeks now. I will take the Iron Eagle JJ Watt crew over Nance and Romo every day of the week. I think those two have an incredible synergy going on. I think JJ Watt is one of those guys, and I think former players have this for the most part. We've seen some not so, where the meme of Witten on Monday night and things of that, but I think those kinds of guys, JJ Watt, Tom Brady, Greg Olsen, they have such a great feel for the game. And then the reason they were able to play at such high level is they are very good at understanding, and they can pick up on things quick and understand what's going on dialogue wise, even, and whatever. And I think today there were multiple instances that JJ Watt knows exactly when Iron Eagle's moment, do his thing, and it doesn't feel as robotic, but even he has those perfect interjections or overlays with his own voice, whatever it is. He was the first one, I think, to even during that Josh Allen scramble back, trips up on the sod that I have my own fucking problems with. Honestly, that's where the foot issue happens. If you watch it back, the sod kind of gives. It's right where the cut line is. We're in the NFL. It's December. Why are we having just central strips being sodded in and loosely? Anyways, I digress. When that moment was happening and they were already talking about, they were kind of ramping up to the Myles Garrett sack moment, because that's, of course, in a moment like that where you would see a Myles Garrett guy finish it off. And JJ Watt even suggested you got to touch him, I think, first. And whatever way it was, it didn't overlay what Iron Eagle said. And then Iron Eagle perfectly, kind of followed up. It's like, if only he touched him first, if only he tapped him first, and things like that. Like, they build on each other so well. And JJ Watt's providing insight, as only he could, as a first ballot Hall of Fame defensive end, defensive tackle, defensive lineman, we'll call him, 3-time defensive player of the year, just an absolute beast of a defender. He would provide insight that both, what I love too? He's doing it. He would even tell you exactly why an offensive lineman's doing something, because he was so good at his craft and understands what he's seeing. He's like, this is why this guy's doing this. This is why you see this. And it's like, that tells you such a depth of knowledge that the NFL isn't just as simple. Why aren't we just running it down the A gap? Why aren't we just running it down there? It's like, there are so many levels to this that the average individual just can't conceptualize, that JJ Watt, Greg Olsen, Tom Brady, these guys do an incredible job taking that information in front of them, absorbing it, and allowing it to be said to the general public in such a understanding and educational way that it's an absolute pleasure. But I will say, to me, out of those three, JJ Watt is the cream of the crop. I think he is entertaining. He's authentic. It's enjoyable. Like, he has a voice to him and a vibe to him that's great. I mentioned even the Badgley comment and stuff like that. When he chimed in on Ian for doing the commentator curse, being grounded in that manner and doing it in a fun way though too, where it's not like he's picking on Ian Eagle for doing what he did. It makes the viewing experience so much better. Whereas I feel like you have other ones, love Brady Quinn and the nostalgia of Notre Dame and things like that. But as I'm watching Cardinals Falcons, boy, I don't know why I'm watching in the first place. But Brady Quinn being the color commentator for whoever the main play-by-play guy is, that crew is eye-bleeding painful. I'm not trying to disrespect them. There's a reason they're probably like 7th on the depth chart for their commentating needs, but it shows you just how much a commentator and color person can elevate a viewing experience. The meme of Chris Collinsworth and everything he does to glaze over Mahomes and stuff like that, it can ruin the viewing experience for you. That's why JJ Watt, Ian Eagle, Tom Brady with, is it Burkhardt, I think his name is? Like those kinds of individuals can elevate things. I mean, for all things considered, Buck and Aikman do a great job on Monday night. They have been around for a long time with NFL games. Buck has been around for a lot of things. There's a million different moments in baseball you can link Buck to, and it's like that voice becomes iconic to the moment, and it can elevate things that, I think it's well deserved to be said that JJ Watt, for this game in particular, because we enjoyed it, it's like to be this first season in the booth, mind you, he's got a long career in it if he wants to, because he is phenomenal. I think he is he's on the fast track to be the number one color commentator for the CBS crew, as long as that contract goes. And then even as the other independent contract, like he'll be on the Christmas ones with Netflix again and things. He is going to be called for a lot of these very, very soon.
I think the thing about JJ Watt that's so unique, because it's kind of unique in these mega stars, and Josh Allen has this to an extent too. These mega stars get on such a level that it's hard to relate to them. But JJ Watt, when you sit down and you're watching football, most people, some people will do it differently, but when you sit down and watch football, whoever you are, whatever your economic status is, whether you're watching with a group of friends or whatever, you're in a certain kind of mood. JJ Watt talks in a way that can relate to football watchers. He's not talking above your head, like trying to use lingo that kind of drowns out a large majority of it. He's not trying to stay between the lines and not criticize anybody. If something dumb happens, he calls it dumb, but he's doing so in a way that you and I sitting on our couch would be saying it to each other. And he's also educating. It's a great skill to have. Very few have it. And I think you bring up a good point about the incumbent on CBS. I've been thinking for a while. I know Nate Burleson does the CBS morning show. Is it Good Morning America? I don't watch it, but he's such a mega star, like outside of sports. I felt like maybe if that wasn't the case and he was willing to travel on Sundays, he could be the guy to replace Romo. But I'm done with Romo. It sucks because he's such a Josh Allen fan. He's such a Bills fan. When you watch other guys like Watt, Olsen, Brady, Aikman, it's just blatantly obvious how unprepared Tony Romo is for the two teams he's covering. And Jim Nance is a gold mine. I think he's the gold standard. I think it's time to freshen up Nance and give him somebody else. All right, Luka, what's next for the Bills is, well, one, spending Christmas with their families and friends. But then on the other side of that is a date with the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. That game is at 4:25, so it's going to be the spotlight matchup. The Bills, with a win, will clinch a playoff spot. There's other things that can happen on the out-of-town scoreboard that can clinch it for them that week if certain things go their way. They are like 99.9% to make it anyway. The big injury this week to watch will be Josh Allen's foot. Shaq Thompson also left with an injury. We will keep track on that. What is on your mind as we head quickly into this Eagles week?
I'm going to be all eyes on just kind of what the Eagles do in their situation, because they're kind of stuck in their own way now at this point. I think they can get up to the 2 seed. I think the 1 seed's out of their equation. How much do they care about it? How much do they even care about this week? Well, are they going to start, managing things? What are the injury situation? Are they going to play it safe? Whatever it is, because that could be a huge impact for the Bills, of course, with everything they could potentially have going on, depending on how this Patriots Ravens games finishes. Anyone that's listening will know the result, but we do not here as we sit. So I will be focused in on that because tongue in cheek, as I mentioned before, 1 seed still available, Josh. So no, it'll be fun going into this. It's going to be fun being game of the week. So we're going to have Brady in town. That is, case to point to what we just talked about, will be a good viewing experience. And yeah, I mean, we're at that Eagles game. We're in week 17, what used to be the final week of the season. Now we have week 18, of course. Playoffs are just around the corner, Josh, and we're about to be in the fun games.
So you mentioned the Seahawks. Just to keep it official, you mentioned the Seahawks. You mentioned the Eagles. The Seahawks play the Panthers at 1:00 on Sunday. The Bills play the Eagles at 4:25. If the Seahawks beat the Panthers, that mathematically eliminates the Eagles from the 1 seed. Because of the time that those games take place, the Eagles can be eliminated from the 1 seed, to Luka's point, with a Seahawks win by the time they kick off against the Bills. And you never know if that could impact the way they play that game, especially if they have guys. I know they've talked about getting Lane Johnson back next week and Carter back next week. But if those guys, if they get ready to kick off and realize, okay, we're out of this. I mean, I know they'd have to announce their inactives 90 minutes before the game starts. But you could see a situation where, especially if an NFC opponent, the Eagles just say to themselves, well, let's live to fight another day. This game isn't that important against a Bills team that, we might see down the line and may not want to play balls to the wall against. It'll be interesting to see. All right, Luka, I know we've been doing this show for a while. We appreciate everybody out there listening. Our channel has grown. We've really given a lot more attention to YouTube. We've given, especially this season, YouTube is growing, and we're putting out videos. We're cutting up videos. We're putting out videos almost daily during football season. We hope you guys are enjoying that. What we just want to say is, with the holiday season, whatever holiday you're celebrating, if you celebrate, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your family. All the best to everybody out there. Be safe. I hope you all are healthy. I hope you all are happy. Be kind. And Luka and I will be back next week, and we will talk to you next week on Bills Chat.